Welcome everyone to No Shame, No Blame, a new bi-weekly podcast about emotional healing and breaking generational cycles. I'm your host, Brandi, and with me is my co-host and longtime friend, Miguel.
How's it going, B?
On this podcast, we want to kind of clarify first and foremost what we mean by generational cycles. There's tons of different meanings when it comes to that. Miguel, you're a first generation American, right? I'm a first generation college student. So there's a lot of different terms that can be used interchangeably when we talk about generational cycles. But for the purpose of our podcast, we are actually going to be talking about breaking unhealthy family traumas and things that have been passed down generationally throughout your family. We also want to preface by saying that we are not mental health experts.
Absolutely not.
Keep that in mind as we go along. We're just two friends who've
We've known each other forever. Middle school, kind of sort of high school, right? Dang, when we say we've been through it all, we've been through it all. The reason why you and I met actually is I dated your sister, obviously. Yeah. So that was an experience. But ever since then, we've kept up pretty closely. We're trying to, as B said, break these cycles of generational trauma. Again, we're not professionals. We're just two friends having conversations about things to hopefully help our listeners out there get some understanding with some things, right?
Yeah. I feel like, especially when it comes to, we both come from low-income minority neighborhoods, yep. And that's kind of our background. And when I started college, I realized how there was this huge gap between the knowledge I was learning, not just when it comes to education, but emotional learning and our communities. And there's this really big stigma around therapies and any of these types of like self-help things. There was always these stigmas. And so, for me, it was really, I wanted to really kind of start being able to bring this information and this knowledge to people from our areas, our communities, because there's still a lot of stereotypes out there. I think I want us to really start breaking those because we have such talented people in our communities. And it's just unfortunate that we're stuck in cycles because we don't understand our own mental health.
Definitely.
So like he said, we're just two friends who have grown up together. We've been through a lot. We've had a lot of really good in-depth conversations as we've grown up together. And these are topics that we both really enjoy and are passionate about. And, he's always been somebody that I've trusted and can be very vulnerable and open with, which I appreciate. And so, for me and you to be doing this is really exciting.
It's definitely exciting to your point, right? Because I feel like sometimes you have this notion that friends, right? Who are your friends? Who truly are your friends? And I'm going to be about this as we were setting this podcast up. When you have a solid friendship, your friends should be able to tell you when you're messing some stuff up. That is the meaning of a true friendship. You don't want to have people that are just going to side with you for everything, even though you're messing some stuff up. So that's what we're going to be coming into play here. We're going to get real serious. We're going to get real deep. We're going to get real.
real.
We're going to get real with each other because we need that. We need that in today's society. We both believe that there's a lot of things that are happening where that's missing. So strap in, guys.
Yeah. We're still on our journeys too. Just because we're doing this doesn't mean we're pros by any means. Growth and especially like emotional healing and growth is a lifetime journey.
Absolutely.
But we're just excited to kind of continue our learning process, but then also to be passing along knowledge. And so kind of the flow of the podcast, it's going to be a lot of him and I, but we also want to eventually be bringing in third-party people for interviews or professionals to kind of talk about some of the topics and give better insight. And, we also are going to be not just talking from personal experience. We're also obviously going to bring some information and some facts about the topics and stuff to make sure that everybody is informed about exactly what the topic is that we're discussing for the day.
Yep. So B, take it away. Go ahead and let us know a little bit about yourself, and then I'll go after you. So.
Oh, how fun. Okay, so I'm a 35-year-old mother and caregiver. I'm a first-generation college student, as I mentioned, and cycle breaker. I'm one of 5 children, and I'm one of the first to not only go to college, but also one of the first to kind of start stepping away from some of those unhealthy familial patterns. In my family, there's a lot of addiction, specifically around alcohol. From an early age, kind of I recognized that was not something I wanted to replicate when I had children. And so being one of the first people, I think that's also what helped me realize I wanted to do the podcast is I realized how lonely it gets. I had to go through that experience on my own and feel like you don't have anybody to talk to because things that you're interested in change, topics that you want to talk about change, your hobbies, so many things around you start to you start noticing certain things that don't fit right with you anymore. and they don't align with you, and that becomes really lonely. So yeah, like I said, like kind of became something that I realized like I really enjoy talking about, and it's one of my favorite things. So I thought a lot about how I wanted to introduce myself, and I mean, I kind of was like, should I talk about my hobbies or should I talk about, right? Like kind of, but I feel like a lot of the surface.
For sure.
So I think, we're asking our audience to kind of come along with us on this journey of talking about some real hard shit. So
Definitely.
I feel like in order to set that tone, I think I need to kind of be a little bit more open and vulnerable in this space. Okay, so this is called therapy. So what brings you here today? My new therapist asks as if we are neighbors and I've just come over on a warm day for some lemonade. I don't know what to say, so I start at the beginning. I was raised by an alcoholic grandmother and absent parents. Early on, I learned that everything, including love, was an exchange, except for pain. That was handed out for free like candy on Halloween, and it doubled as a bribe to make sure we were never heard or seen. She was emotionally abusive, which causes me to be a people pleaser with serious control issues. I have deep-rooted insecurities that I'm not good enough. Not enough for my parents to stay, my grandmother to stop drinking, my siblings to want a relationship with me after everything I do and have done for them, so I reach farther. Thinking that accomplishing big life goals will help fill that hole of insecurity. But it seems like the bigger the accomplishment, the more room has been made for that insecurity to grow, digging its roots deep like fingers gripping my soul. Stop. Just let me breathe. Let me think about what path I'm going to take next, because with every step that I take, I feel like I'm running out of breath with those insecurities pulling me down into the dark depths, and I'm afraid to go down there because what if I don't come out? What if all I am are these things I'm talking about? What if all I'll ever be is a ball of insecurity wrapped up in anxiety, and I never really learn how to love me for me, and I pass that down to my daughters who will live in this cage instead of feeling free. And I can never feel proud of myself no matter how many degrees I pursue, because the word proud never feels the way I expect it to. It never feels the whole. So like a hamster, I continue to run on a wheel, chasing something invisible that I'll never catch. I'm running as far as I can to unattach from these emotions. They're crashing over me like dark waves in deep oceans. I'm drowning at sea. Help. Sorry, time's up. Session's over. I'll see you next week.
Holy cow. That was really deep.
Yeah, so a little bit about me.
Yeah.
Michael, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So, of course, you heard B. For first and foremost, thank you for sharing that, B. I know it's not easy, putting that out there. So thank you. That means a lot that you're able to share that with not just me, but with all our listeners. In terms of me, guys, yes, my name is Miguel. I go by Miggs. My friends call me Miggs. A lot of people call me Michael. I'm 37-year-old father of 4. And this is going to probably get me to choke up a little bit because it's something that just recently happened, but I'm recently divorced. Yeah, you guys want to talk about vulnerability, right? Like B said, it's important to understand how we can handle this, and go deeper into who we truly are, right? Not on the surface level, because surface level is, I feel like, things that we do to cover up what we really feel inside,
Yep.
right? But on a deep level, right, we need to scratch that out and become vulnerable, so I want to talk about these deeper topics because people don't get to do that. And, I want to help break these cycles for our family. I want to help break these cycles, as we mentioned earlier, for, our communities and stuff like that. And hopefully we can make some changes.
Yeah. So on that topic, you kind of mentioned some of the goals. So what are like your individual hopes for the podcast? Like, what do you hope to accomplish? Like both, I guess, for the podcast in general, but then also what do you hope to get out of it yourself?
For me, healing, future healing for everything, given the fact, like I said, recently divorced. Hopefully, if we have some couples that are out there listening, whether they're in a long-term boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or they're married, obviously that's a common law sort of situation, but looking to make a change with that, man. I feel like these days people don't want to fight for things. And it's important to want to fight because we all come with traumas. We all come with demons. We all come with things that affect ourselves, not just individually, but in a relationship. And I feel like when you find someone that, is willing to go on that tumultuous journey with you, we got to try to fight for that. But it can't be a one-way thing. It has to be a two-way thing. I feel like we go with the crowd way too much in terms of hey, listen, you don't need him, you don't need her, drop him, you can find someone better.
Yeah, social media is so quick I feel like, I don't know if that's just like new generation thing, but I feel like you see that so much more now in society where it's like, oh, people don't text you back. If he's too busy to text you back, I'm like, people work 8 hours a day. I don't expect somebody that I'm talking to message me every 2 minutes.
Not only that, but we have kids. And there's life that's happening.
And the fact that people are so quick to say, cut them off because you don't hear from them in this amount of time, or they're not doing X, Y, and Z. It's like
realistic expectation.
And it's coming from a selfish perspective. Absolutely. Because maybe you have that kind of time, but their day might be a little more busy, right? Like you said, there's kids, there's who knows, they might have had some car trouble, right? Like sometimes people aren't going to be able to be on their phones all the time, and that should be okay.
Your schedules might not line up to that degree. And so it's unfair for you to hold someone to such high standards when you don't know what's going on the other side.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I think in relationships nowadays, and again, like you said, like that's where we're realizing now, coming out of long-term relationships, like nobody's perfect, and recognizing that, like, yeah, there's clearly a lot of areas where we're paying more attention to ourselves in the relationship and thinking about our experience, because you live your own experience every day. But, I think for me, I've come to a place where I'm like, maybe I need to focus more on the other person a little bit more. Yeah. But yeah, like relationships is just one example of how, like you said, people are kind of more going with the crowd and trying to kind of just do what people say on social media. Like these people, like your friends are not experts either.
No, they're not. So yeah, what about you, B? What are you looking to accomplish within this podcast?
My biggest thing, as I mentioned earlier, was like that, like loneliness. And so for me, like a sense of community is super important. That's like my biggest drive, is like to be able to create a space where I feel like there are people that understand the journey that I've been on and that I've gone through, and other people can feel like they actually have a space where they can come and have like-minded people, or people who have been on the journey, who are in the middle of the journey, who are starting the journey, wherever they are. I just would love for us to be able to support one another and be able to feel like we have other people around us that we can reach out to help support when we're struggling, especially if we don't have people like that around you when you first are starting those journeys.
Sure.
So yeah, I think like that sense of community is like the biggest thing for me. And then, like I said, like I'm personally interested in continuing my self-growth. So I'm excited to see what else pops up, because once we fix one thing, it's like
there's something else that comes up.
Yeah, it's know. Like I always used to my therapist, like, God, I'm so broken.
We all are.
That was always her response.
We all are.
Who isn't?
Yeah.
So what is your most like favorite topic, or topic that you're most excited to jump into?
I feel like all of them. To be honest with you, I don't think that I have a favorite. Maybe as we continue to have our conversations, we can circle back and kind of
highlight some of the
highlight some of the favorite things that we talked about and see which one it is. But I feel like as of right now, I'm excited to do them all. I know we have a lot of great insight. I know we're going to have a lot of great conversations about everything. So I can't pick one. What about you?
Yeah, same. It's like asking to pick your favorite child, right?
Seriously.
Like, I love them all these, and the thing that I think is most important to recognize too, though, is because all these topics are interconnected.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can, and I think you and I, again, because we've had a lot of heartfelt, deep conversations through the years, we've realized how quickly like a conversation can roll from like, we're talking about relationships, then it goes into parenting, then somehow we're talking about, the dog. I don't know, like the conversations just flow. And so like these topics through mental health and self-growth are very much interconnected in those same ways. And so I think that's why it's challenging to pick a favorite.
Yeah.
But if I was going to try, I would say communication, which isn't shocking because that was my major in college, but more so too because there's so many branches of communications to explore.
Okay.
So you can be talking about like communication in happiness, communication in family, right? Like, so kind of understanding how your communication style and your family dynamic can be different versus how you communicate to the world and how you express yourself and how that can come across to someone.
For sure.
So I think those are some of the topics I'm the most excited about. But like you said, I think as we go, I'm sure that those will evolve and change.
For sure.
So we will be back with our first official episode on vulnerability next week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, guys. And before I go, B, I do want to say one last thing about that whole communication piece. I've always told people that you get two versions of me.
Okay.
One version is the professional version where it's just, suit and tie, not all the time these days, but I'm very professional with people. And then you get, I like to say it's hood mix, but it really isn't hood mix.
Literally code switching. We're going to have a whole episode on this. Code switching. That's what that's called, people. Okay. When you can go from being professional and then going back to kind of being like more of like your like slang.
Not that I'm hood. I just want to throw this out there. Not that I'm hood. But, I do have a lot of slang. You know me
right.
pretty well, and you know that, when we get into it, we get into it. And then there's also the me that just likes to have fun and like just.
Fun fact about that, by the way, too. Only intelligent people can code switch.
Seriously.
Seriously. Like, it's very easy. If you're intelligent, it's not hard to dumb yourself down, quote unquote, is how we would talk about it, right? Like, we would talk with each other and bullshit and shoot the shit. Like, it's easy to do that.
Yeah.
But when you're not an intelligent person, how do you elevate to a professional level?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of
sense.
sense.
Like I said, we're going to get more into that. That's going to be an episode. So
exciting.
Tune in, you guys. Code switching is an episode we'll get into. But for now, we're signing off. Thanks for joining us on No Shame, No Blame.
Thank you guys for listening. We will look forward to seeing you guys the next time around. Have a great week.